My name is Christopher Ryan Harvey. I'm the co-founder and owner of Arcade UFO. So the very first thing I did online was there was an online service. It wasn't the internet, but it was like the internet. And for those of you who don't know, there were a lot of different online services in that era. There was Prodigy, there was America Online, and they weren't the internet, but they were these online services that you connected to, like to post in forums and things like that. So we had a Prodigy account. So Prodigy was the very first thing that I used to get online with. And at this point, I'm searching it. I'm reading video game bulletin boards, seeing what people are posting about like video games, and specifically about Street Fighter 2. I wouldn't say that Prodigy or any of the services like America Online at that time were really used to meet people. They were more used to just exchange the information, like how do I do this move? So it wasn't exactly like the internet is today, and there were bulletin boards, but you didn't exchange like your personal information and stuff like that. So I didn't know where anybody lived or where anybody was from. I was going to arcades because that's where you went to play the newest games, and that's just how things worked. You went to the arcade if you wanted to play against other people. So I was making my way to arcades, and I would talk to, the people there, mostly older kids, teenagers, young adults. I was really head struck at how many arcades there were in Austin. By my memory, there were about 7 arcades that were very active, traditional video arcades when I moved to Austin. And there was a super excited guy at that time. He was basically like the cheerleader for fighting games in Austin. He was a guy named Crandall. Crandall loved, though, he told me all about all the top players in the Austin arcade scene. He told me about Alex Valle for the first time. I had no idea who that was. But this was a guy who had been reading Usenet, which was, before the internet. And Usenet had a very popular forum called alt.games.sf2. So this was like the first digital forum where people are actually discussing Street Fighter and meeting up in real life. And they were mostly in California at that time, in the Midwest. But Shin Chang, very well-known Austin player, was posting on alt.games.sf2. And so Crandall had been reading all these posts and sort of really getting into it and getting into the story and sharing that story with everybody who came into Einstein's. In the mid-2000s, just about 4 or 5 years after I was in Austin, when I approached graduation, most of the arcades started to close for various reasons. January 1st, 2008, I was working a night shift at the time for an IT company, and I looked at my phone. I woke up around 7 or 8 p.m., and I must have had maybe 25 or 35 missed calls and 40 or 50 texts on my phone. So I woke up and my immediate thought was that someone in my immediate family had died. That was what I thought when I saw that I had that many text messages and that many calls. But when I started reading them, I realized what happened was that Einstein's closed. So the messages were saying, Ryan, it's, Einstein's is closing in 2 hours, come before it closes, celebrate with us. And it was really painful because not only had I been contacted by everybody to come out to the arcade one last time, I couldn't even go because I was asleep. So, apart from, personal situations with my immediate family, that was the most emotionally intense morning I'd ever woken up to. I was literally in disbelief, and I was in shock, and I was, thinking how could I possibly go on in a city with no arcade? There were a lot of factors that led to the unpopularity of arcades. Console is one factor, and I don't even think it's the biggest factor. Honestly, I think the biggest factor is that a lot of arcade operators were operating chains and things like that, and there was a trend happening around this era in the early 2000s, late 90s, to move to redemption from video. So what that means, video refers to video games, like a game that you play with a joystick and buttons, or with a light gun, or with a race car, or something like that. Redemption refers to any game that spits out a ticket or a prize or something like that. So all these operators, I think, were misguided, and a lot of them had the idea that arcades were for children. So they invested more and more heavily in redemption instead of video. Now, as a result of the chains doing this, like Tilts and Dave & Buster's and yada yada, all the big guys, right? Because they were all doing this, it was influential for distributors of arcade games. So if the big guys were all asking for X type of game, the distributors had no incentive to make video. So this is all happening in the United States. In the meantime, in Japan, it's business as usual. They're still making video, and they're still profiting with video because they're actually catering to what the players want.
My name is Shinichi Tokunaga, and title, oh, I'm a software engineer, and I'm from Japan. Why so laughing? This is so embarrassed. I went to arcade a lot in Japan, you know. I think I've never known the people in Japan like know each other, no. As to this arcade, this is very one place, like everyone knows everyone, everyone knows everybody. But in Japan, in most arcade, no one knows everybody, you know, just very few people. I like this better than Japan because I know a lot of people. That's it.
So I do think that Japan is generally more accepting of technology, that they're more quick to adopt it and more quick to implement it into their daily lives. Like, for example, when I was in Japan in 2005, they were already using NFC payments for a lot of transactions. There was already, like, you know, the belief that that was more secure than credit cards, and nobody really carried around credit cards. Regarding Japan, the thing that really makes it unique in most of Asia, even though I haven't been to most of Asia, is that it's a walking culture. So, you know, America is all about cars and driving to your destination. Japan is about walking and taking the train or public transportation to your destination. So Japanese cities are formulated around this idea that you're going to be out all day and then you come back to your home at night when the day's over. Game centers, I think, will always have a place in Japan, just like karaoke boxes and things like that, because, you know, it's a thing to do while you're out on the town. And Japan most certainly has embraced technology in terms of communication and meeting up and things like that, and especially Twitter has just really taken off there. People discuss which arcades are hot, where to go to play X or Y game, when to play online, when to have sessions online. Everything is done through Twitter nowadays in Japan. So it's kind of interesting because there are definitely two schools of thought in Japan currently when it comes to fighting games. One is, why do I need arcades? I have consoles and I have a perfect light speed internet connection at home and Twitter. I can do everything I want to do with fighting games at home. And there's another polar opposite group that thinks arcades are the best place to play fighting games. You can meet people, you can meet your friends, you can do it while you're out on the town. You don't have to have a crazy setup at home in your small, tiny space. If you don't play at arcades, you're not doing it right. So, you know, the US used to have arguments and wars like that, but for better or worse, there aren't enough arcades to really have that argument in the US anymore. It's the misuse of technology rather than the providing of the technology that is, you know, preventing people from making connections. I mean, you can make the same argument with a movie theater, right? Why did the movie theater not die out the second that the DVD came out? Because the DVD is perfect quality. Why would you need to go to a movie theater? I can make the same argument about a bar. Why is the bar still in business when I can go to H-E-B and buy a six-pack, right? So the thing that makes the arcade different from your console at home is that you're at an arcade in public around other people, and there's, you know, a shared, mutual, unspoken understanding that everybody around you loves games just as much as you do. Yeah, I think that's what gets lost on a lot of people. People think, oh, well, at an arcade you don't interact with people because you're just staring at the screen, you know, in your zone playing. And you know, there are some people who enjoy the arcade like that. Just like when you go to the movie theater, you don't talk to your friend the whole time. You're enjoying the movie together. At an arcade, you enjoy games together. It's just it's the public place that you go to enjoy games together. Personally, I'm a social creature, and I would not have ever gotten into games or taken games seriously if they weren't something I could have enjoyed with somebody else. Thanks for the interview. You should definitely come to Arcade UFO. It's a cool place, it's fun. If you come here, definitely say hi. I'm here to meet people and spread the love, so please join us.